Welcome, Algebra Lab students, to your e-learning video for today. We're not really going to do anything new in this video, but instead just practice a little bit more of elimination, the method that we learned last week to solve these systems of equations. And so we're just going to work through a couple of examples here just to kind of remind you how this elimination process works. Remember, the reason why it's called elimination is because we're going to solve this system by either getting rid of the x's or getting rid of the y's. And we talked about a little trick last week where we could just add the equations or subtract the equations and they got eliminated. But that's not going to happen here. If we added these two equations together without doing anything to them, we would get 7x and we'd get negative 2y and we'd get 29. That doesn't eliminate either the x's or the y's. And when we try it with subtraction, the same thing happens. The x's and the y's don't eliminate. So what we talked about was that we can always make things eliminate by using some multiplication. And we're going to multiply the top equation actually by the bottom x and the bottom equation by whatever the top x is. So when we look at this top equation, the coefficient on the x is 4. So we're going to multiply the bottom equation by 4. Okay, when we look at the bottom equation, the coefficient on the x is 3. So we're going to multiply the top equation by 3. So it's going to look like this. Now notice that we also change one of the signs. That's going to guarantee that the x's will eliminate. So you switch the x's and you switch a sign. Okay, so we switched the 4, we switched the 3, and we changed one of the signs. It doesn't really matter which sign you switch. I just kind of get in the habit of doing the top one, but you could do the bottom one as long as you only switch one of them. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to multiply everything in this top equation by negative 3. Okay, and then we're going to multiply everything in the bottom equation by 4. All right, so go ahead and do that. All right, so when we do that, what we end up with is this: negative 12x plus 9y equals negative 33. Okay, notice we multiplied each one of those numbers by negative 3. Okay, now in the bottom equation, we're going to multiply each one of these numbers by 4. So that makes it 12x and makes it 4y and makes it 72. Okay, now that we've done that, now we're going to combine these equations together, and the x's are going to eliminate because negative 12x and 12x would give you 0. Okay, so we're going to draw our line and we're going to add these equations together. So when you add these two equations together, what do you get? Okay, we get 9y and 4y is 13y, and we get negative 3 and 72 gives you 39. Now, this is a real simple equation to solve. You've been solving that for several years now. And so what do you get for y? Okay, we end up with y is equal to 3. Okay, now remember, on a system of equations, we don't just find one variable, we have to find two variables. And so we found the y, now we need to find the x. So we're going to go back to any of these other equations that we have written down, and we're going to use the fact that we now know that y equals 3. Again, I just kind of get in the habit of going to that first equation. And so if I looked at my first equation up here, it was 4x minus 3y equals 11. So I'm going to start with that equation, but I'm going to replace the y now with a 3. So that makes it look like this: 4x minus 3 times 3 equals 11. Okay, that may look a little confusing, so let's go ahead and multiply 3 times 3. That gives it 9, so now it's 4x minus 9 equals 11. And again, I'm back to a point where I know how to solve that equation. So we would add 9 and we'd get 4x equals 20. And so then your final answer is going to be x equals 5. So we've gotten two answers now. We've got x equals 5, we've got y equals 3. And so the way we write that answer is we just write it as an ordered pair. X is 5, y is 3, so the first number is 5, and the second number is 3. All right, so that's the idea of using elimination to solve these systems of equations. Let's look at one more example here. What's a little bit different in this example is you notice that the x's and y's are not in the same order. And we can go ahead and do this problem like we normally would, and that's what I'm going to do. However, you could also rearrange this problem. The main thing you want to do is just make sure that when you're doing the elimination method that x and y are on the same side of the equation and your numbers are on the other side, and make sure that they're lined up, because that will just make it easier for you to know what you're eliminating. So right now, that's okay. We've got x's and y's on this side. The y's are first, the x's are second. So it's a little bit different order, but it'll still work. We're still going to use the same trick that we've used before. Okay, I'm going to take my y's this time since they're in front, and I'm going to switch the numbers, and I'm also going to switch one of the signs. So my top equation, the coefficient on y is 1, so I'm going to multiply the bottom equation by 1. Bottom equation, the coefficient on y is 2, so I'm going to multiply the top equation by 2. Now, remember, I've got to switch one of those signs as well, and so that's why I made this a negative 2. So now we're going to go ahead and multiply those equations by what we just said. So when you do that, this is what you get. So negative 2y plus 6x equals negative 22, and 2y plus x equals negative 6. All right, go ahead and do elimination now. And what do you get for your answer? Okay, so this time the y's eliminate, and we end up with 7x is equal to negative 28. And as you solve 7x equals negative 28, you get x equals negative 4. Now what I want you to do is go back and find out what y is. So what do you get for your answer for y? Okay, you should be able to go back to any of these equations and get the same answer. If we go to the first equation, though, y minus 3x equals 11, okay, I'm going to start there. Y minus 3x equals 11. I'm going to replace that x with a negative 4. So now this equation would be this. Y minus 3 times negative 4 equals 11. And to clean that up a little bit, go ahead and multiply negative 3 times negative 4. So really that's just saying y plus 12 is equal to 11. Of course, I subtract the 12 and I get y equals negative 1. And so my ordered pair, x is negative 4, y is negative 1. Make sure you always write it in that order. The x is always first, the y is always second. So negative 4, negative 1 is the answer there. So that would be your answer to that system of equations. Now, like I said, you wouldn't necessarily have to do this system of equations like that. Okay, here's that same problem we just solved. If you wanted to, you could rearrange this equation, and that may have been what your algebra teacher told you to do, is to rewrite it so the x's are always in the first spot and the y's are always in the second spot. And so if that was the case, this is what that equation would look like. We would, instead of having y minus 3x, we'd put negative 3x plus y. Instead of writing 2y plus x, we'd put x plus 2y. Okay, so now that's our system of equations, and now we could do it just like we've done it before. Okay, we could switch the x's and switch one of the signs and multiply. So this time I multiplied the bottom one by 3 and the top one by 1. So notice I switched the sign on the 3 there. This is what we get when we multiply that. And so when we combine it together, we end up with 7y equals negative 7, which gives us the answer y equals negative 1, just like we had before. So that's what we're doing today. So again, when you get to these equations, if you want to rewrite them, you can, or you can just keep working on them like we've been doing. That's the end of the trail for today. So if you have any questions, make sure you send me an email or send me a message through Canvas Messenger, and I'll try to get back with you and help you if you have any questions. Good luck.